So the newest character, Zhezhi, is quite insane. She's not your typical DPS, so don't expect her to do one big damage number, but instead, she's very good at delivering tons of damage over time, and there's also quite a few things that surprised me about her. So today, I'm gonna be going over how to build Zhezhi and play her so that you can beat some of the hardest content in the game. Okay, let's start with the most important part of the video, how to maximize this struggling artist's potential and how do her abilities work. I'll be using the Freezing Frost Echo set to showcase her damage and abilities, while her active echo is going to be the Lampy Lumen Myriad. But keep in mind, I'll cover all of her builds later in the video. Also, I finally got access to a test server, but keep in mind things might differ from the live version, and of course, in this video, she is sequence 0. Alright, starting off with her basic attacks, it's a 3-hit combo on the ground, while in the air, she will perform a 2-hit attack. Like with most characters, the damage here is quite low, but basic attacks are going to be very crucial for Zhezhi, since they will allow her to build up her Forte gauge by gaining afflatus points. Now, the Forte gauge is made up of 3 bars, and each bar is represented by 30 afflatus. So in total, she can obtain 90 afflatus when doing basic attacks. In addition, she can also obtain some afflatus when she triggers her intro skill, although that's pretty much the only 2 ways how she can gain afflatus: basic attacks and the intro skill. One thing to note is that the last third hit of her basic attack will generate quite a lot of this resource. However, the animation is pretty slow. Luckily, you can just swap cancel the last hit if needed. And when I'm back to Zhezhi, we can see she still gained the points. Very nice. But how do you spend these afflatus points, and what do they actually do? Well, these points are consumed to summon these objects here, called phantasmic imprints, which I'll just call imprints from now on. And when Zhezhi is close to them, you can tap the skill button to instantly teleport to one of them and perform a special attack. Now, there are several ways to summon them, and the main one is going to be her skill, which deals decent amount of damage, and then if she has 2 full bars or 60 afflatus, 2 imprints will be summoned on the left and right side. Interestingly enough, if you hold down the skill, these objects will appear in mid-air. You can also summon an imprint in the middle, and that's by using her heavy attack when she has 1 full bar or 30 afflatus, and after a specific action occurs. What do I mean by that? Well, here are the 5 ways to summon the imprint in the middle with the heavy attack. You can do it by holding the attack button after the 3rd basic attack, or when she uses the skill, you can immediately press the attack button, which counts as a heavy attack, or after she teleports to one of these imprints and you hold down the attack button, or she can also hold the attack in mid-air to summon it, and finally, after dodging, hold down the attack button to, yet again, summon the thing. So yeah, basically a lot of ways to get one of these imprints in the middle. Now, why do I keep mentioning these positions? Left, right, and middle. Well, because only one of each type can exist. As you can see, I am spamming right now the hold attack after basic attack 3, but every time I summon the middle imprint, the previous one disappears. So in reality, you will need to summon the left and right imprints from the skill, while the middle imprint will need to be summoned by using one of the 5 different ways I've explained a moment ago. Honestly, I am yapping a lot here, but in the majority of situations, what you'll do is just use the skill and quickly tap the attack button to summon all 3 imprints immediately. Of course, that means you'll need all 3 bars or 90 afflatus built up, but it's pretty easy. I'll show you later. Alright, so when these imprints exist, you can see her skill lights up, and if you tap it, she will teleport to one of them immediately, and then deliver a powerful attack called Stroke of Genius. Now, this damage is treated as basic attack, so keep this in mind, but what's even more interesting, when she uses up the imprint, she also obtains 1 stack of Painter's Delight, and after 2 stacks, or basically 2 teleports, the next 3rd imprint she teleports to will now deal damage called Creation's Zenith, which will consume the stacks and apply a buff on her for 27 seconds, which will increase her basic attack damage bonus by 18%. And again, this Creation's Zenith damage is treated as basic attack type. On top of that, her first inherent skill will provide 6% attack boost up to 3 times for 27 seconds whenever she casts Stroke of Genius or Creation's Zenith, which is a nice and easy 18% attack she can maintain pretty much forever in combat. So that's her forte in a nutshell. What about the ultimate? Well, it's quite simple. For 30 seconds, whenever anybody in the team deals damage, a barrage of 3 coordinated attacks will descend on the enemy every 1 second, and this can happen every 3 seconds. But in total, 21 coordinated attacks can be triggered this way, so basically, it's gonna take 21 seconds to fully unload all of them. Most importantly, this damage is also treated as basic attack damage. So yeah, if we take a look at her overall kit, around 75% of total damage is made up of basic attack, and that's because the Forte and the Ultimate are treated as basic attack damage. And then we can see everything else like the Echo, the Skill, the Intro, and the heavy attacks make up rest of 25% damage. Now, when it comes to rotations, if you just want one on-field rotation to follow that can buff up her ultimate when off-field, then you'll want to start off by doing her intro, then perform the 3 basic attack combo, press the skill button, and immediately attack again to summon all 3 imprints, and then just tap the skill 3 times to trigger all these imprints and finish it off with her ultimate. You could also squeeze in the Echo skill somewhere in this rotation as well. Obviously, this is just one rotation example, but if you want to play her in quick swap teams, you can easily swap cancel whenever she's teleporting to the imprint, since the animation is pretty long, and as I said, you can also swap cancel her 3rd basic attack. But yeah, that's pretty much how she works. Quickly build up her Forte, get those 3 imprints out, and activate the ultimate for coordinated attacks. I have no idea why she's trying to hide such a simple playstyle behind these walls of text, but maybe that's the life of a shy artist. Anyway, let's take a look at her extremely awesome build. Okay, so this is becoming almost a ritual by now, since the weapon options are pretty scarce, especially if you want to go the free-to-play route, but here we go. So starting off with her signature, it's a pretty interesting rectifier because essentially she gains 12% attack, 36% basic attack damage bonus, and then she gains 52% basic attack damage bonus from casting outro when she's off field, which will basically boost her ultimate's coordinated attacks. All in all, her best in slot choice. What more do I need to say here? But moving over to other 5-star options, String Master isn't that far from the same power level as her signature, which is nice, and she doesn't have a ton of synergy with Yinlin, so you could swap this weapon between her and Yinlin in Tower of Adversity. And then there's Cosmic Ripples. Honestly, this is going to be her baseline weapon, since the 4-star options are pretty lacking to say the least, and it is a weapon you could obtain from the supply chest. And overall, it just provides a ton of value for Zhezhi, since she can also utilize both basic attack damage bonus and energy regen from the weapon's passive. So, this leaves us with the 4-star options. Well, the best of the worst would be Augment, which is a Battle Pass weapon, so keep that in mind. But it does provide a decent crit rate from substat, and a simple but effective attack boost when she casts her ultimate. But honestly, Jinzo Keeper isn't that far behind from Augment, since it provides a ton of attack, which is always welcome when playing double 3-cost Glacio damage echoes. And then there's either Guardian Rectifier or Rectifier of Night that you can use as a 3-star option. But at this point, you're probably roleplaying as Zhezhi and trying to live that struggling artist's life. Anyway, these are the weapons. A couple more I didn't mention will be in this rating chart, which is made by Rivenus and I Win to Lose, so thanks for helping me out. Now, let's talk about her build options. Obviously, if you want to go full power mode, use the Freezing Frost 5 set along with Myriad as the active echo, and keep in mind, you can swap cancel the last hit. But if you don't have the whole set built, you could go for a double 2-piece of Freezing and Lingering Tunes with Myriad as the active echo, or you could also go with full Lingering Tunes and Abomination. Although keep in mind, these options are not as great as a full Freezing Frost set. In fact, their potential in terms of damage is about the same as Moonlit Clouds. So you can easily turn her into a buffer, which by the way is a very legit way to play her because of her outro skill that I'll talk about more in the team section. So yeah, if you do go for Moonlit Clouds, Heron as the active echo is recommended. Still, regardless of which set you're going with, the most reliable loadout as always is 43311. I mean seriously, what else did you expect? So, 4-cost echoes, go with either crit rate or crit damage, and 1-cost echoes should be attack percent. Duh! However, 3-cost echoes are a bit more interesting this time around. I mean, sure, if you want the best personal damage potential, go with double Glacial damage, or for a slightly weaker attack percent and Glacial combo. But because Zhezhi's ultimate can deliver a lot of damage over time, and some characters like Jinshi will want it to be active all the time, going with Glacial plus energy regen is not the worst idea, especially if you don't have any of it from substats or weapon. Just keep in mind, this will have a pretty big impact on her personal damage, but it will improve the consistency of having the ultimate ready off cooldown. Finally, when it comes to the substat priority, focus first on trying to obtain at least 120 to 130% energy regen, and usually 130% is the sweet spot. Otherwise, critical rate and damage are the way to go, then attack percent followed by basic attack damage bonus, and then all the other crap. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Zhezhi's build. So for video skippers, here's an overview of everything I mentioned, and also you can see the ability leveling priority. So there's two big reasons why Zhezhi is an awesome teammate. First of all, her outro skill amplifies Glacial damage by 20% and Resonance skill damage by 25% for 14 seconds, which is amazing since it's quite flexible. On top of that, her inherent skill also allows the outro to instantly restore 15 energy for the next teammate that switches in. So while it's 5 energy less than Yang Yang's outro, it happens in an instant as you can see here, and it's going to be very useful for few of the current and future characters. But what teams can you build with Zhezhi? Well, the most obvious one that comes to mind is with Jinshi and Verena. Not only do the ultimate's coordinated attacks provide superb 4T generation for Jinshi, but she also can gain that skill damage amplification boost and recover 15 energy from Zhezhi's intro. And in this team, I like to use Zhezhi with Moonlit Cloud set to further boost Jinshi's damage. However, you can also play Zhezhi as sort of a hyper carry, and it's mostly thanks to Sanhua, since her outro skill can provide a massive 38% basic attack damage boost for Zhezhi, which is amazing. Just keep in mind she does lose this bonus when Zhezhi switches out, so her ultimate's coordinated attacks will lose this bonus when she's off field. Still, it's a very fun team comp that you can play with Verena or even Baiji for that first one-of-a-kind mono Glacial comp, or just use another sub DPS like Havoc Rover. But get this, you can also play Zhezhi with Ling Yang. Yeah, his skill is all over the place, but they do have a synergy together, and Zhezhi can help boost his performance. So hey, if you have him, might as well try this team out. Still, there are plenty more units that have synergy with Zhezhi. I mean, it's not an ideal synergy between each other, but for example, Changli and Xixia can both benefit from her outro bonus. Or you could just use Zhezhi as an off-field DPS for pretty much any team where you want some extra damage, especially since she can easily utilize the Moonlit set. Now, before I share my thoughts about Zhezhi and what I think about her, here's a quick recap on whether you should go for her sequences or signature weapon. Okay, so the first sequence restores 15 energy and increases her critical rate by 10% for 27 seconds when she casts Creation's Zenith. So basically, when she teleports to the third imprint, this will be triggered. It's a pretty decent, but definitely not the most amazing sequence out there. Now, the second one will allow her to deliver 6 additional coordinated attacks, and while it might not seem like a lot on paper, it's actually a pretty good damage gain. Then the third sequence will allow her to gain 15% attack when she casts her skill or teleports to an imprint, and this can be done up to 3 times for a chunky 45% attack boost. Not bad. And as for the fourth sequence, yeah, it's a pretty decent 20% attack boost for a whole team when she casts her ultimate. And then the fifth sequence is a big jump in power, since now, after every third coordinated attack, one more will land on the enemy and it will be further empowered. While the final sixth sequence will now deal additional attack with every stroke of Genius or Creation Zenith. And that damage will scale off of Stroke of Genius's multiplier, which of course will lead to bigger numbers. But you know what's not big? Your bank account if you go for this. Now, is it better to go for her first sequence or the signature weapon? Well, the answer is pretty easy here, because her first sequence is pretty meh, and since you can share the weapon between other characters, if you do want to further empower Zhezhi, then yeah, it's worth getting her signature. All in all, I think she's a nicely balanced character. Not only can she work well in a lot of teams, but her outro buffing is future-proofed, since she can restore energy and boost both glacial and skill damage, so she's not tied to one type of particular boosting. I only kinda wish that her 4-star weapon options were better, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, and as always, I would really appreciate it if you could press the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and see you next time, baby!